Something I am always curious about in the wedding space is what cameras other filmmakers are using. So I reached out to a bunch of wedding filmmakers and asked what their A-camera setup looks like. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, Jared from Wayward North here. This is my camera rig. Let's talk about it. So I am rocking the Sony a7S III. Haven't made the jump to the FX3 or FX30 just yet. So I am rocking the a7S III with the Sigma 24-70. Love this lens, love the camera, full frame, great in low light. And through the years, I have just kind of acquired new bits and pieces to really deck this thing out to give me a practical run and gun solution. And so I paired it with the small rig cage, the small rig wooden side grip with the remote trigger, because that is super practical and very useful. It can just be a little bit awkward trying to navigate the record button when you have a cage on here, and when you're in a pinch, you need to record the moment. Having quick access to your record button is a must-have. So, and then on top of the grip, I have the GoPro Hero 10. And this is a brand new purchase just recently because I do a lot of BTS on my channel as well. And I wanted something that can really show me just out in the field, capturing weddings and all of that good stuff. So love pairing that on top here. And then on the right side, I have the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus. And this is so that I can capture some really quality ambient audio, just some nice scratch audio throughout the day, especially if I don't have everyone in the wedding party mic'd up. Just having the ability to capture that quality sound is really nice because I like to infuse really the authentic moments, just those genuine moments within my films. And oftentimes the in-camera audio isn't the best and you got to do a little bit more treatment to it. So I love having a shotgun mic for that. And then on top here, I have the small rig top handle paired with the Atomos Ninja 5 monitor. The only thing I will say about the Ninja 5, it's a great monitor for like literally everything except all-day weddings. And that's just primarily because of the battery life. So generally I am using the Feel World monitors, but this is a great secondary solution. I usually give this to my second shooter. Again, the only downside is we're having to swap out batteries more so on this thing. Yeah, this is pretty much my all-day carry. I generally am not doing much throughout the day. I might swap lenses here and there, like go to a 50 or even the 35 to 150 from Tamron. But this has been really the perfect handheld solution for me. Just super practical, super useful. And the only thing different that I do maybe during the reception, I'll swap the 24-70 with a 50 mil, and then I'll also replace the GoPro with the Aperture MC Pro. And this is just so that I can capture some nice front light on my couple's faces and other guests as well, and then get some nice front light for the send-off. And that's my run and gun wedding filmmaking setup.
What is my main setup for shooting weddings, for video and for photo, really? The first things first is the Canon R5, which is the body I have on this lens, which is also the lens I use. But the Canon R5 is a solid wedding or just general filmmaking camera, as well as a photography camera. This just has everything that I absolutely need for weddings. Now, as for the lens that I use, this is the lens I use for literally everything. Literally. It is a lens that is super versatile at a really low f-stop or aperture, but it is a chungus of a camera lens. I mean, you can just literally see how big this lens is in comparison to my face. It's a really big and heavy lens, but it is a 28-70 f2 all the way through. Lastly, something that always stays on this camera is the ND filter. This is a variable ND filter so that it can change its, darkness depending on what the light is outside. I do put my camera on my DJI RS2. I've had this since it came out. It's a beast. It works really well. I use gimbal footage, or I put my camera on my gimbal during the first half of the day. So if the getting ready stuff, the ceremony stuff, things where I know I'm going to need my camera to be pretty stable. Now, after the ceremony, all bets are off. I mean, I can use anything from handheld to gimbal to a full cage setup. Now I have two options for handheld type footage. One of them is literally just going handheld like this. This camera does have in-body stabilization. My lens does not, but the in-body stabilization does a really good job at keeping things look nice. So I will use this during the dances, and for other parts of the day, or for something like an elopement where I'm handheld more often, I'll use something like this whole cage setup with the mic that just fell off. So this is my whole cage setup. And how I utilize this is I have a Ninja 5 up here, and then I have the mic on the side, and then my camera goes in the middle, and then I have my handle grip and I'll hold the lens. But those are my three setups when I'm filming weddings for my main camera. I love using a mix of both handheld and gimbal shots to get a really nice look and feel to the video. And that's really it.
As of right now, this is my setup. The best overall minimalistic production kind of vibe. So it's not very over the top. I'm handheld, I don't have gimbals. So yeah, let's just dive right in. Okay, so starting off strong with camera bodies and lenses. My go-to camera body is the Sony a7S III. In a perfect world, I would bring 4 camera bodies and 4 lenses to a wedding day, and all 4 of them would be the Sony a7S III. This camera never fails me as far as like overheating and focus, and I've had this since it first came out, and it is still working like a beast. So I love this camera. It's my main camera. I have the Magic Rig cage attached to it with the wooden side grip, a Rode microphone that's just full of cat hair right now, the Sony G Master 50mm f1.4, a Tiffin Glimmer Glass lens filter on top of that, and then I believe that's it.
For my own setup, I'm using the Canon C70, both for myself and my second shooter. I love this camera. The impressive dynamic range, the internal NDs, the built-in XLR ports, it's just a great camera that I really like using. The internal NDs and the false color are particularly amazing for shooting weddings. There's definitely some things I wish it had though, like IBIS or a better autofocus system, but I haven't ever felt the need to go to a different camera system or different camera because of those things. For lenses, I've been kind of going back and forth between the Canon EF 24-70 2.8 Mark II and the very old EF 24-105 Mark I. With the C70 speed booster, the 24-105 is pretty awesome, and it's got image stabilization built in, so that's super nice. This one doesn't have that, which is kind of a bummer, and I end up getting really shaky with it. So having the image stabilizer is nice, even though this lens is fairly old at this point. I actually used this lens for almost all my weddings in 2023. It just was kind of glued to my camera all day. I used to be using the 24-70 a lot more, but because this doesn't have image stabilization and this does, I just kind of defaulted to this lens. I don't have much rigging on my camera. I don't like it to be very heavy, so there's no cage on here. It's just this little top plate from Tilta, and on the bottom I've got an Arca Swiss plate from SmallRig. It has been customized to be compatible with the Ronin S2 and S3 quick release system, so all I need to do is slide the whole thing onto the gimbal. It makes going from handheld to gimbal back to handheld super fast and very convenient for me. On the top plate here, I've got a microphone shock mount. This is the one that comes with the C70, and it's kind of perfect because it kind of goes off to one side. It makes room for the monitor to be able to move up and down like this, which is great. The mic I'm using is the Rode VideoMic NTG. Really been enjoying this mic. Kind of the best feature for me has been the auto power on feature. So when I turn on my camera, the microphone turns off, and when I turn off the camera, it turns off as well. So don't have to think about turning on the microphone or making sure that it's powered off so that it doesn't drain battery. It just does it all automatically. It's great. When I do want to use a monitor with my setup, I'll grab my top handle, which is from SmallRig. It's their lightweight NATO top handle, and on the front of it, I've got a monitor mount to mount my monitor. I'm using the OC Littlemon 5. It's got a ton of really great video assist tools, and the screen seems to be quite color accurate. The only real issue I have with it is just that the glare gets kind of bad when you're in direct sunlight. Other than that, it's been great. And I'm using the MPF 750 batteries on the back here just to kind of keep the weight down. It may seem silly, but I am going to mention the HDMI cable that I use. I see so many people using HDMI cables that stick way out of their camera and make it super awkward to hold, or they're way too long and there's a bunch of excess cable everywhere. Everyone, please stop that and get yourself a right-angled cable. I got this one on Amazon for like $12. The OC monitor that I have has the HDMI port on the back, so I also picked up this angled HDMI adapter. That way my cable would sit flush to the back of the monitor instead of sticking out all weird. My final piece of kit is this Manfrotto Arca Swiss hybrid plate. Basically, it's a Manfrotto tripod plate on the bottom, and then on the top is an Arca Swiss clamp, so that I can use the horizontal Arca Swiss plate on the bottom of my camera, slide it into this hybrid plate, and I now have a tripod plate on my camera. Or I can just pop that off, and now I have an Arca Swiss plate that fits onto my Ronin. Or I can just go handheld with it, and then the plate doesn't interfere with my hand and the lens and all that stuff. I don't have it on my camera all the time, especially because I'm usually shooting on the gimbal or handheld, so I don't really need it there, but it's super handy for going in between tripod and handheld use, and I just like it. As for my gimbal here, I've still got the Ronin S2. I don't use it super often. I've primarily been shooting handheld, just kind of like this, but I do kind of want to get back into shooting with the gimbal more, so I'm probably going to use it more in 2024 than I did in 23.
Hi, my name's McLean from Hello Tomorrow Films, and the main camera I'm shooting with these days is this. This is the Canon C70. I love this thing. I've had it for a couple of years now, and it is kind of my dream camera. I love the dynamic range. I love the internal ND filters, how all the buttons can be programmed and are all conveniently located. It's just kind of the perfect camera for me. I've rigged it up here with some basics, got a small HD 702 touch monitor. I love this thing, super bright, nice and big. Some people have made fun of me that it's like a laptop on top of my camera, but I really like having that large size. Not too long ago, I switched to Team V mount. I resisted it for a long time for the added weight, but shooting so much handheld stuff, I really actually appreciate the added weight. So I have a small rig plate back here with D-taps to this and the monitor, or to the camera and the monitor. I also have the Rode NTG Pro, I believe. This is a great little scratch audio mic. It's actually a really powerful little mic, but I just use it for scratch audio and it's great. I also have this small rig rotating handle. I love this thing. With a push of a button, you can rotate it, so it can always be nice and ergonomical, And then on the front here is the newest edition. This is the Canon RF 24-70. For a long time, I've been on a Sigma 24-70 with a speed booster, but recently I had a chance to try out some RF lenses, and I was blown away, and especially with the IS. And actually, Josh's video really kind of sold me on it. So I've got one of these, all on rails, Manfrotto plate, top handle, pretty straightforward otherwise, but a great powerful little camera. I'm kind of ready for any shooting situation with this setup, and I love it. That's my current setup.
Hey friends, Jonah August here. I'm one half of The August. I'm a wedding filmmaker based in Vancouver, Canada. Now I hate to admit it, but I am using Sony cameras now. I never thought I would turn to the dark side, but Sony released a camera that is absolutely perfect for wedding videography work, so I just couldn't resist. So the camera body that I have here is the Sony FX3. It has incredible autofocus, great in-body image stabilization, and I love its square body design and how compact it is. Now the lens that I have paired on here is the Tamron 35-150mm f2 to 2.8 variable aperture lens. I'm a zoom guy all the way through. I think zooms make the most sense for wedding videography. Having the ability to go from wide to tight in a matter of seconds is super crucial. Optics on this lens is quite incredible. The only downside is that it's a bit heavy, but you get used to it after a while. Now the matte box that I'm using is from Freewheel. It's their new Eiger matte box. It comes with a built-in variable ND filter. You can also slide many other filters into here, which is super sweet. But this is a game changer. It has a dial on top, which easily allows me to change the intensity of the filter depending on the lighting conditions. When I'm in a scenario where I don't need the matte box, I can easily just pop it off and use the variable ND filter. Now this top handle here comes with the FX3. Super great, has XLR inputs. I'm using the Sony ECM XM1 shotgun microphone with it. I love this microphone so much, and it's come in clutch for good scratch audio. I have it set to a mode where it records a stereo track to the left and right at different decibels. So even if I clip, I always have a backup. Now the small rig handle extension comes with the cage for this camera. I'm using this full cage from Small Rig. Comes with an HDMI clamp to make sure that I don't snap my HDMI cable. The side handle that I'm using is also from Small Rig. It's one of their more inexpensive ones. It slides in via the NATO rail. Super convenient if you just want to take it off quickly. With a few different Small Rig products, I've configured this little setup here So essentially I have some 15mm rails that connect to this plate here, mounted on this quick release plate on top so I can easily attach it to the camera cage. Now this product here came out not that long ago. I was super stoked. I was actually searching for something just like this before SmallRig released it. Before I'd have a V-mount on here and it would kind of just rest against my chest or my stomach to give me stability, but it just added so much more weight to my camera setup. So this is a perfect replacement. It's a pad, so it's a little bit more comfortable and it helps you get those stable shots. Now you may be wondering why I have a camera strap connected to this rig. It seems a little odd, doesn't it? Most people use camera straps for photography, not really for videography, but this comes in super handy because this helps me get that gimbal-like footage. Now to connect my monitor, I use this magic arm from SmallRig. My HDMI cable is also from SmallRig. This is the Atomos Ninja. It's their new version, comes with some extra features, and I really like it. Now I find that using a monitor is really important to help you nail your focus, expose your image properly. And thirdly, I also record out from this monitor. So I have 3 backups, 3 versions of everything I record. Now you want to make sure that you always use 2 memory cards recording simultaneously inside your camera body. Never risk just using 1 card. But now that I have this monitor, I have 3 versions, just extra safety.
Hey, what's up? My name's Josh Rexford. I'm a destination wedding filmmaker and photographer based out of West Michigan, and super excited to walk you through the kit that I use to film weddings. Now, quick disclaimer here, for the last couple of years, I've actually been filming on the camera that's filming this video right now, which is the Canon R3. Most of the weddings I've been shooting for the last couple of years, I've been shooting photo and video together at the same time, and the Canon R3 was really the best camera I could find to be able to shoot both of those at the same time. But this year, I started kind of transitioning away from the photography element. I'm still doing some photos, but really prioritizing my video work, and so that's when I decided to invest in the camera that you see here, which is the Sony FX3. So the way that I have the FX3 rigged out is basically I have the FX3 body, and then on that I have the full cage from Tilta, and that just gives me some extra gripping options, some extra mounting options, the ability to kind of screw some stuff in and put that on the camera itself, which is super convenient. In terms of lenses, because I'm so new to the Sony ecosystem, I only had the financial capacity to buy 2 different lenses, and so I really needed lenses that were super versatile but also price effective. And so I ended up going for the lens that's on the camera right now, which is the Sigma 24-70 2.8 art lens. That's been a phenomenal kind of wide to mid-range zoom lens that also performs pretty well in low light. And then I also recently invested in the Sony 70-200 f4 OSS macro lens, and this has been just a phenomenal addition to the kit to give me all of that telephoto range, but then also be able to give me a full macro capability right in this camera, which kind of feels like I've added a 3rd lens to my kit without actually having to carry a 3rd lens, which is really, really fantastic. If you haven't checked out the 70-200 f4 macro, it's a really phenomenal lens. To help manage exposure on these lenses when I'm outside, I have the Peter McKinnon Polar Pro VND filter. This is the version 2 filter, and this is the one that has the mist filter built into the VND. I also have the original version that doesn't have the mist component of it, and so I just kind of choose which one of those I want to use depending on what situation I'm in. But these VNDs are fantastic and go with me everywhere I go. In terms of audio, I have a few different setups that I use. Primarily the setup that I use is this one right here, which is the Sony XLR handle. I have the little Condor Blue XLR handle extender on that just to give me some extra grip, and then I've paired that with the Sennheiser MKE 600, which is really just a phenomenal mic for capturing ambient audio and Foley audio on the wedding day. I've really fallen in love with this setup because it's so light, it's so minimal, and it really just kind of gets the job done for me. So this is what I use for like 85% of the wedding day. And that leads me to the last piece of my kit, which is the Atomos Ninja 5, which is my on-camera monitor for doing visual monitoring. Honestly, I don't use this much at all anymore. I used to use this. I have a little NATO rail clamp that I would put on the XLR handle here and then mount the monitor kind of up here, but I just found that rig to be a little bit too clunky, and I found the LCD screen did what I wanted to be able to dial in exposure. And so honestly, I hate to say it, but the Ninja 5 tends to just kind of stay in my camera bag, and I haven't been using it all that much this year. Now, the other thing you haven't heard me talk about is a gimbal. I do actually have the original Ronin S from DJI, but I have not used that thing in a long time. I've really been happy with just kind of the run and gun look of the FX3 in my hands. Combine that with a little bit of drone footage or some time-lapse footage on a tripod, and I've been really, really happy with the overall kind of feel and vibe. And I find I can be a lot more in the moment and a lot more engaged with what's happening on a wedding day when I'm just using a handheld rig and a minimal handheld rig like this one. So that's the setup that I use for my FX3. The setup is always changing, and honestly, by the time this video comes out, I'll probably have tweaked something on the setup, but that is the setup that I'm using currently to film weddings.
Hey, what's up? I'm Boomer from Multiply Media, and this is my Camera One setup. Nothing too crazy, to be honest, because in reality, I'm not the biggest gear junkie. I come from a background of music, and so this whole camera learning about gear is very new to me. So I keep it simple. I'm shooting on the Lumix S1. I have a variable ND filter. I have the Sigma 2470. Oh my God, 2470. I'm on a 2470 all day. That's all I want. That's all I need. For my monitor, I have a Shinobi. It's, I think, 5 inches. 5 inches is great for me. 7 is a bit too big. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Sorry, Josh. I don't know what else to say. Okay, I'm back. I love S1 and Lumix because of the color and the internal stabilization. I'm not on a gimbal at all. I'm just all handheld. Rarely ever use a tripod either. Even during the ceremonies and toasts, I just like the handheld feel. And this is kind of my whole rig. Very simple.
A massive, massive thank you to all the creators who contributed to this video. Thank you so much for taking the time to record these segments. All of their channels will be linked below, as well as the gear that they mentioned in their videos. I hope this was helpful for all of you watching to see what other people are using for their main camera setup, but also please remember that the particular camera you shoot on really isn't that important. Just find something that works for you and go with it. Okay, bye.
Hair. Back to you, Josh.